Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to CJ's Court. You know this is the place where we set up the jury. We talk about various things, but then as I always say, the verdict is always yours. That means you don't have to agree with us, neither do we have to agree with you, and we don't even have to agree with one another. There's always a different perspective on every issue that we tackle. I am so glad today that I've got this amazing panel together with me. On my father's right is Maureen, then there is Arnold, then there is Ruth, who is not new. I will allow them to introduce themselves better and what they do. But what I want you to do right now is to subscribe to my YouTube channel, CJ Atemo. Also, share the video out right now. Get your friends, get your colleagues, get your family, get everyone out there tuned in right now. Share as much as you can, but make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now. Maureen Wanyonyi, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Welcome to CJ's Court.
Asante.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Maureen. I am a trained economist. I also have done a lot of work around social political research, and I have worked mostly with young people in political parties and young people in leadership.
That's very interesting, because I'm beginning to develop a dream for politics.
Once you do, it's hard to get out.
All right. Arnold Otieno.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Yes.
A bit about you.
Well, I'm a lawyer by profession, and I'm the co-founder of Common Center Ground. That is an organization that deals with young people in relation to trying to teach them about radicalization and the same. I also develop policies, the same, and I would also like to venture into politics later on. Yes.
Well, now that I'm sitting with all of you who have some footing in politics, somehow maybe it will rub off on me. Ruth, you don't need introduction, right?
Well, I think at this point the CJ's family would introduce me best how they've interacted with me. But again, just for those who are new, Ruth Bolo is my name. I am also a political enthusiast.
Wow.
I'm a fashion designer, and I love working with young people.
Talking about fashion designer.
Yes.
You know, I've got my own house now. It's called Creativity Designs. So I don't know whether you should work with me or dress up for me, you know, like, you don't model, do you?
Unfortunately, that life refused me. But I have been, like, every time I come on this show, I have the set standard because of your dressing. There's a set standard of dressing, so we definitely should.
Now look who's talking. You know, when I saw Arnold walk in, I was glad. Because I knew I was going to dress down. Then Maureen came in, I was glad. So when I saw you come in, I'm like, did I miss the memo? It put me a bit under pressure, but it's good to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe. Today we are talking about, you know, cutting a niche for yourself as a young person. The transitions of life that people make. You go and study one thing, prepare for one thing, have different aspirations. You come out of life, into life rather, and then you just nearly have to start all over again. Yeah. How easy is that, Maureen? How easy is that to navigate? And for young people who are just trying to cut out their niche out there, you know, they've got all these dreams, all these aspirations. They've got all these things that they have heard about, and then they've got to step out in here. And they realize they just stepped out into a whole new world. Wow.
Well, young people my age know that during our time, the most interesting motivation for you to work hard to create your own niche was for you to work hard in primary school, pass your KCPE, go to a very good high school, SC or KCSE, go to a very good university, and then you have very high chances of getting into the market.
Right.
But now, over time, we have seen that I think now it's the Generation Z or Generation X, I think think now for them, they do not have a motivation because over time, we have seen that ranking of schools has been withdrawn. So there's no motivation to work to go to a good school.
All right.
Ranking of high schools has been, ranking of students who have performed well has been withdrawn. So the motivation to work harder has also gone down. So for them, for me, I wonder what makes them wake up every morning to do what they want to do, to be able to get into what exactly. So it's a little difficult, given the state of affairs even in the country today, for them to wake up every morning and work towards something. And with the microwave generation where I want to be able to get something today,
Right.
it is even harder to work hard.
But don't you think that the reason that kind of ranking was eliminated was the effect that it had on other people? Like, it is better to motivate somebody with their own dreams than against somebody else's performance. Like, it's better for me to say, Ruth, you can become this, than to say, Ruth, I need you to beat Arnold.
And I couldn't agree with you more.
Right.
And hence why I'm a very big supporter of the, CBC and envisioning and,
I'm not saying anything about CBC. I'm going to sip water.
looking at how best you can, teach them the skill rather than just read a book, give me the answers that you got from it. So I don't know, I am a proponent for CBC if it works.
I think just maximizing on what you said, a child could be street smart and not book smart.
Sure.
And what the ranking was doing was prioritizing children who are book smart and completely forgetting and neglecting those who have got talents, those who are street smart, those who have potential in other areas.
Right.
And it was actually demoralizing them. And so you find that when a young person has all through their life been told that you're nowhere near top 10 or you're nowhere being good enough, then any single potential they have automatically suppressed. And if you look at right now's marketplace, it is so full. If you go looking for a job, you're told there are no vacancies, especially with the current economy.
Yeah.
If you try and venture into a new business without the proper training and without someone to guide you, you find that you've got all sorts of competitors and you don't know how to navigate that place.
All right. But is apprenticeship even big in our day? Arnold, you want to go into that?
Well, I think that the two sides of the coin in relation to the entire aspect. There are the pros and cons in relation to grading of students, in relation to the exams and all that. And also there are the pros and cons in relation to apprenticeship and also venturing into the educational system. The reason as to why I say this is that my belief is that the ball always stops at the back of our parents. That is where it all starts from. And the reason as to why I'm saying this is that from a tender age, one's brain, or rather how one thinks, is molded through by the experiences in life. Yeah. And at this particular stage, the people that they are around are majorly the parents. So
that was in our day. I'm not sure these days their parents are around.
Yes, that is my understanding of the same.
Yeah.
So I still think that the ball still stops in the court of parents and how our parents, or rather how parents actually push it through into their children's heads and brains. That is how they will operate, and that is how they will turn out to be. Because as Albert Einstein once stated, that everyone is a genius.
Right.
But then if you try to grade a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it will automatically be stupid its entire life.
Right.
So it is about trying to understand what this young person actually loves, what exactly they enjoy doing. And then the mistake that most people do is that we assume that when someone is good at something, that is the area they're supposed to venture in. But that is not the reality in it. That is still going and taking back children through the same educational system that we're trying to fight, or rather trying to pull through. Because when you want to define, or rather set a path for an individual based on what they're good at, that is not necessarily what they will actually enjoy doing. So it is more on what someone loves doing, what they embrace in doing, and then that is the area you're supposed to mold and guide them through.
Interesting you brought up that, because somebody would be, selected to join a medical school because they passed in biology and chemistry. In those days, I don't know what combinations they need right now. And then this guy gets to third year in medicine and decides they want to rap.
Yeah.
Then everybody gets upset. Like, how can you leave medical school that you want to go and rap? And they think this is not what I wanted to do. They were able to read and pass the exams in that particular field, but it did not mean that that's what they wanted to do. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I've actually had friends who did that. We cleared high school together, and then we were lucky to go to the same university. But then by the end of the first year, they decided that medicine is not for me. Then they quit. Then they tried nursing. After 1 year of nursing, they quit again and say that nursing is not for me. They tried pharmacy. After 1 year again, they quit and then tried economics and then realized, okay, this is an area that I love. So those are 3 years that you've actually wasted.
Talk about the element, let's talk about the element of the prestige that comes with certain professions. I mean, you're supposed to be a doctor, and then you're moving into economics, Ruth?
I think actually, just to touch on something that Arnold said, before a young person realizes, this is what I love doing, you've got to try a few things here and there to be able to know what you actually love.
Not medicine, pharmacy, nursing, at the cost of your parents.
Because even let's use a musician, for example.
Right.
They have to try and do rumba, gengeton, afropop, R&B before they actually know what the sound that they're good at is. So even for a young person, I don't think there is any harm in doing a little experiment until you're sure which path you want to take. Again, you look at a person who has been brought up in the very traditional system, as you say, has been taught that you finish, you work so hard to get into a high school, then you work so hard to get into a university, and you work so hard to look for a job.
Right.
This person is going to know that I need to, once I'm in high school, I need to know whatever options I will be given. If I'm called to a medical school, that is where I am going to.
Right.
And if my dad says that being a surgeon is the it thing, I will do that. This person, remember, has not yet identified what they love doing and what they're good at. So sometimes it is also good to do what you're good at as you try and find something to do, because I also don't support someone just sitting for 3 years without doing anything.
Before, Maureen, in the past, there used to be this period between clearing school and going to college.
Yes.
It used to be about 2 years.
Yes.
And I thought, I think now, looking back, that period would give people a certain sense of direction. Though, again, to many people, Ruth is not agreeing with me. But then, again, what they tried to do was, bridge the gap so that people are not staying home for like 2 years. But when I look back now, from where I am, I thought that was a brilliant idea, to give people a bit of time. Some of them have tried out to go and work, and give them some time to try and find direction. So when you're making your choices on what you want to pursue as a career, you have a sense of clarity. Do you think that would work?
That did not work at that time, because that period was already defined.
Right.
What happened was you would already have done your exams, you already have your results, and you already know what you're going to do. So you already have a defined course, and within that time already the government is determining what you're going to do. So if you miss even by a pointer, you will miss, your dream career by a pointer, just because the government, through the Joint Admissions Board, would be the one determining what kind of a course you're going to do, or the kind of, is it a diploma, is it a degree? They would then place you in whichever university they think you have qualified for. So for rich parents, for example, they would afford to take their students into whichever course they can be able to afford. So that brings the dynamics again of the rich versus the poor and creating the niche.
Right.
So how can I, as a young person who would have loved to do medicine but missed it by a whisker, now I have to go into the school of business and just, let me go through this and survive it.
Or a polytechnic.
Yeah. So there's a lot of dynamics around, do the poor people even have a chance? And even after getting to finish their careers and having known this is what I'm good at, do they have opportunities to get into places where they can then be accommodated? Because now the network mentality of who do I know in the market after I have
And I'm
finished.
going to just use that question that you have asked. If I can get my camera on me, I'm going to use that question that you have asked right there. Do you think that the poor people, I don't like using that term though, but do you think that the people who are challenged economically have a chance? I need you to put down something on our comment section right now. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, but put your comments right there. Do you think that the economic status of anybody is a disadvantage to them in either pursuing their dreams or cutting their niche as well? And I'll bring that question to Arnold. Do you think that that's a factor?
Well, first and foremost, before I respond to that, I would like to talk about the question you'd asked about the 2 years period.
Yeah.
I tend to think that it usually helped. It used to help.
Okay.
The reason as to this is because
Ruth is not agreeing
that
with me.
particular
I'm
period,
banning.
in that particular period, you would mature up a lot by trying to work and trying to do the various things. And also, I think that on the basis of the government having set for you what you had already done, the reality is that in universities, I think the first 2 months, an individual can actually change their courses if actually your cutoff meet that particular end. So I tend to think that at this particular period of time, I did it for 1 year, maybe. I don't know about the others.
It wasn't easy
Mine
in my
was 1
time.
year.
It wasn't easy in
Precisely.
my time. I tried to change.
Yeah.
It was very complicated because my change would have meant that I would have changed the particular campus I was in.
Yeah.
We were the initial groups of Moi University, the Maseno, as a constituent college then. So any change would have meant that then I needed to go into Moi in Eldoret, which was now very difficult. That was way back in the early
Well,
90s.
nothing comes easy. But anyway, let us move to your question in
No,
relation
Arnold,
to...
just before you move, also in the 2 years that you stayed at home, are you sure you didn't just do driving and computer courses?
Well,
And how did this define your career?
actually, I did motivational speaking. That was also what I did.
Amazing.
The reason as to why I say that it defined or rather changed how I thought is that if you had parents who actually tell you that, okay, this is your time, go out to the world and try and figure out how life works, find a job and do that. Being in the job market or rather in the job space opens up your head in relation or rather your mind in relation to how you're supposed to operate, how you're supposed to balance issues of having money and how you're going to balance the same by actually working for someone, because at that particular moment it means that if you start at that particular point in time, then when you revert back into university, you could still have that, but also still be in a position to actually balance between your job and
I love what you're saying, because
Yes.
I see the sense in that. Like, it's very different from when I've just come from school and then I get into university, probably never had to make decisions for myself. And then I've got some money and thrown into this sea of young people who are energetic, experimental and all that. So I'm beginning to experience life at that point. I don't know the value of this money. If I have worked in an Indian shop for about 2 years,
Precisely.
I have learned the pain of earning it. So when I go to campus, I still have that sense of I work for it. Don't you think so, Ruth?
I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that right now there are a lot of things that are influencing our young people. In these 2 years that I'm being told to stay home, okay, which I am very much against. Number one, I know that when I start earning money, it's going to be very difficult to take that child back to school. It's going to be very difficult to tell them, sasa wewe wacha hii maneno enda usome. It's going to be very difficult because they've already tested their own money. They know that if I have my own money, I can treat the ladies. You know, for the ladies, they can make their hair. You know, for the gents, they can, you know, it's going to be very difficult to tell them now you're going to survive on pocket money alone. That is number one. Number two, when someone is idle and a young person is idle, a lot of things start to tempt them. Okay? And that's when you find we have young ladies getting pregnant right after high school. We have the gentlemen going to try, you know, the drugs and alcohol. And it just, that period is a long period because remember...
I think there are more young ladies doing alcohol nowadays.
Than well, it is just an example.
A debate,
but a debate we won't do today. But I just think that this 2-year period can be very, very harmful. In today's society, we have social media. We have, and remember the rate of depression amongst the young people is also really, really rising. In this 2-year period, maybe you're telling this child who is in the rural area, they need to go and help, maybe if they're staying with their grandmother, to collect firewood and all those things. While people they were with in high school, who are now in the urban areas, instead of collecting firewood and doing all those things, they're now going to the malls. You know, they're now using this 2 years to do...
But Ruth, let me ask you, well, sorry to cut you, but let me ask you, when they came out of college, there's still no guarantee of getting a job immediately. So don't you still think that these things that you were trying to say would affect them before college would still come up after college because they'll still be idle? They'll still be home. They'll still have social media. In fact, they will have been exposed to a certain life already, which then puts people in the place where they feel like they need to have things like, you know, the come we stay very quickly because they don't want this gap. You already have a degree and there's no job. The easiest thing is just move in with somebody over there to try and cover up for gaps in life.
I think it will affect them, but at a at a much lower rate. And why? Yes, at a much lower rate because why I say this, Arnold, is why I say they're more mature. They're more mature. They have, you see, when someone goes to campus, you mix with people from all walks of life. From people who have gone, people from different backgrounds, they have gone through different things. You meet people who are more mature than you, and there's certain life lessons that you get from there. Yes, there are those who will really want to hold on to a certain lifestyle that they have seen or might have experienced, but a huge number of them will now begin to look at life differently. Some of these small temptations won't matter to them. They'll be very small things.
Arnold,
let me tell you something. In as much as we're talking about this, there are also a number of people who are also complaining young people are not getting an opportunity in terms of we want 5-year experience. How are you going to get this 5-year experience? You've worked for 2 years. That has already given you a plus. Now you just need another 3, and then it's easier for you to actually befit that particular requirement as is needed. And also, the reality is that we're talking about going to university and meeting people of different lives and different cultures and all that. But also, we need to also embrace the fact that people go to university as innocent as they can be and live as toxic as toxicity comes about.
Sometimes.
That is the reality of it. So we cannot put our focus on the basis of the university actually bringing forth exposure towards that particular end. It is a 50-50 thing. And in as much as, yes, there are pros of going to university direct from finishing your high school, there are also cons as to the same. And reality is that at this particular moment, I think you finish your high school at 18, by 19 in campus. That means that by around 22, you're done. Yes. By 22, you're done, and then you get into the job market. You get your money. It's just, you're perturbed. You don't know how to handle money in itself. And also, it means that having your papers gives you an opportunity to even earn more.
Right.
And it means that there is a possibility of your life being messed up.
When you talk about those papers, and Maureen, I wanted to rein in on this. When you talk about those papers, it has been said that, you know, the younger people, when they're coming out, most of them have very high expectations from the job market. Like you ask a fresh graduate, how much would you want to earn from your first job? They'll talk about 70, 80. Because they're thinking, I've got the papers.
I
You know,
deserve.
I've got a degree. Probably it is a first class, an upper second, something. So they've got those very high expectations. If you tell them to start a job somewhere and probably pick up a salary of 20, 25, they will not take it. They-
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, graduates are taking those salaries every day. From my experience, they just want to be able to be seen, to be working somewhere after graduation. I saw many of my classmates getting depressed because if you call your friend and they already got a job, even if they're being paid 10,000, they are taking that job. So we have already known, I think, that there is no
but
job.
who are these who say there are no jobs?
Literally, every graduate, literally, because then, you know, the skills you are taught are for being employed. You
Right.
know, you are told, and most companies have discovered that you then just do trainings on the job. So you bring in a graduate, you set them up for training for a week, you teach them the job, and then now they start off on the job. But then literally all graduates who get out of school have not run a business before. They are looking for work after Form 4. They are not running a business after Form 4. They are being employed to earn money, to know how to use money, just like we have had that conversation here.
Right.
So it's and unemployment is sometimes just regular, everyday repetition. So you don't learn any new skill. And if you're not employed in that organization today, tomorrow you're not able to work anywhere else.
But
so it's a whole debate. And then,
Yeah.
just to bring in the aspect of papers, the course that you studied for is not the job that you do.
Right.
So whoever offers you whichever job. So if I'm a mechanical engineer and they want a receptionist, you go. They
I don't
go.
know whether that is
I
the
know. I'm
reality.
telling you, it's bad.
I don't
It
know
is
the
very
reality.
bad. There's a
But
whole
then
mismatch.
again, okay, as you talk
Well,
about
so
that,
no offense to mechanical engineers.
but I have also had a lot of employers who complain, especially about the millennials, and they say these people just walk out of jobs.
True, they do.
That's
Like
true.
they will take up the job, but then in 2 months or something, because it's not giving them the kind of life they thought that they wanted, they'll walk out of this job. They may have taken it up initially because of peer pressure, but then they don't have the work ethic. They're not wired to work under pressure like that, and then they just leave.
There's something young people are doing which I recently learned is called the marketing musical chairs. So what happens is you go into a company and you tell them, give me 3 months probation to work. You pay me, but after those 3 months, this is the salary. After those 3 months, if you like my work, increase my salary, give me the contract. If you don't like my work in those 3 months, fire me. So as an employer, you will say, this person makes sense. This person looks like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But after in those 3 months, you'll realize this person has got absolutely no idea what they're doing. So in 3 months, you will fire them, but they will go to another company, do the exact same thing, and their 3 months, go to another company, do the exact same thing, and they survive that way. And the second thing is young people are being, I don't know what the right word to use would be, but there's this phrase that a lot of people are telling young people, which is, do not allow yourself to be used for money that is not worth it. Now, that sentence, that phrase is a double-edged sword. Yeah. This is why. You're telling this person not to work for a lower amount of money. This person has got no experience.
Right.
Where they're supposed to be earning a lot of money, would need them to have that experience.
True.
Where do you expect that young person to get the experience if they don't, make their way up? They have to start from somewhere. I started working at 16 and I was earning 10,000 shillings. My first job, I was earning 10,000.
Well, you made it when you were young.
No, that was because at that particular time, and I think it is something we will discuss a different day and time. But for me, that was because I didn't want to stay idle.
All right.
And an opportunity presented itself. And I had started by volunteering. Whenever that particular farm would need someone to organize papers, I would be there.
All right.
And so they said, well, she's always organizing papers for us. Why can't she come and do this, even if we're giving her small allowance?
All right.
And you see, from that you get to grow. So young people also need to learn. Instead of just walking out of jobs because you think the money is little, you need to learn that you have to gain the experience and the exposure first.
Arnold, let's talk about apprenticeship, because what she's talking about is just somewhere around there. In the past, and I know like for professions like law, that's huge. In medicine, that's huge. People understand, I'm going to go through some form of apprenticeship, and you can actually work for somebody for a while without them paying you much. But then the marketplace is so different today. They're not these very clear professions, because anybody can start from anything and anywhere. But we have probably lost that element of apprenticeship where I'm going to work in a place to acquire skill. Now I want to work to get compensation for my time because there's no skill. So because I bring my time into this space, please pay me the 70,000. Let's talk about the importance of apprenticeship.
And actually, young lawyers are always complaining about the pay. So I would really like to hear.
Well, reality is that, as you've stated, for the longest time possible, in the legal profession, most of the time it was apprenticeship. And if you read through history, the likes of Paul Mwite actually got into the legal arena through apprenticeship. They worked for someone, learned the ways and all that, and that is how they made it through. At the moment, it still happens. It is a requirement because for the legal profession, you undertake your undergrad, and then after that, you go to the Kenya School of Law, and then there is the pupillage, which is a 6 month. It's for 6 months. And then at this particular period, you're in a law firm, and you're supposed to actually learn how things are done. Now it's you bringing what you learned in school into practice. So it is an end and an area that I think that needs to be embraced more. And the reason as to why it is not talked about outrightly at this particular moment is that people hide behind the cloth of this is my mentor and all that. That is apprenticeship in its own self. That is the reality. Someone is your mentor because they are guiding you through that particular stage. So apprenticeship is still there, but then people just have given it a different name, which is a mentorship. Because, for instance, if I come and say, hey, I need you to be my mentor, or rather you tell me, you're a young man, you're focused, I like how you operate, I want to be your mentor. Basically what you're doing is you're guiding me through life in itself, and the definition of apprenticeship is just guiding someone in a particular field in order to know or rather gain experience.
How do we balance that, Maureen, with, there are these expectations, and Arnold mentioned that at some point initially, you talked about parents. So here you're 24, and your parents can't let you rest because they say, we took you to school. But you feel that Ruth has a farm where I would gather some skills and acquire some skills and become a better person. So I'm giving myself like another 2 years before I can earn well. And then your parents are sitting back over there and they're asking, what are you doing with your life? Because they expect that now that you're out of school, you should be part of the economic dealings of this family. Like if there are issues, you can send in some money, solve a problem here. If there's a sibling who is still in school, you can support. Don't you think that also puts a bit of pressure?
It does. It very much does. And I think parents have started to understand the dynamics of the market because children are going back to them with the realities of life. And they're telling them, I have searched. Children are going back to the villages to start afresh life. Once you come back to Nairobi, you're not allowed to go back to the village, like we say. You have to start life. So I think parents have started to accept the realities of the dynamics of today's society and the way things are working out. Before, it was almost, you would get into depression not having a job after graduation. But as it is now, for me, I think parents have started to understand the dynamics. And if if you're lucky enough for your child to get a job immediately after, or for someone to be working with them, or for him to be working under someone, my mom would be optimistic that the future is, it's luminous. At least she knows I am working towards something, because most young people are just sitting around hoping something comes through.
There's something that you raise up, Ruth, and we're running into the last few minutes, but you raise up the issue of you did some voluntary work. And I think that, you know, when we say there are no jobs, there's no work, we're talking about certain kind of jobs that are not available, or the kind of jobs that would pay us a certain amount or make us feel a certain way. I still think that if young people wanted something to do, they would find something to do.
That's not entirely true. When people say there are no jobs,
What part of it is not true?
the people say, when people say, okay, it's what you call half-baked truth.
It's not half-baked.
When people say there are no jobs, there are literally no jobs.
There are jungles going on. There are farm places.
Even in jungles, because I have also for about in 2018, real story, I worked around a construction site, and I will tell you there are people who would come. Not as a foreman, but there are people who would come, and you would have to turn them away because you have enough people already. And these guys are paid at the end of the day. They're not paid at the end of the month. They're paid at the end of the day. So you will only be lucky if that day someone has not shown up, or someone has had an injury half day and they need someone so that the work carries on. Then you would be lucky. But when young people say there are no jobs, there are literally no jobs in whatever sector there is. Nobody is employing. In fact, right now, construction is very low. So where are they supposed to go?
Don't you think your statement also is a half-baked truth? Because that's very blanket, that when young people say there are no jobs, there are actually no jobs. Because some of them are talking from the comfort of their parents' houses and saying there are no jobs. They've not gone out there looking for anything. They have their WhatsApp groups from college and high school, and they've told each other there are no jobs.
I don't want to give young people an excuse not to work hard, because I love people who work hard. So I'm not going to give young people an excuse not to work hard. But this is what I will say. When you're looking for a job, sometimes, and that's why there's a meme that says, you know, one day I will just walk into a company and start working, and when they ask me at the end of the month, I'll tell them, hey, I need my pay, I've been working. Why I agree with that statement, or why I find some truth and some sense in it, is because sometimes you need to just go to an organization and find what are they missing in this organization that I can do, that I can offer them. At first, don't think that because this is your first year of work, this is an organization that first of all you went to look for. They didn't come look for you. They're going to pay you those 6 figures. It's not going to happen. You don't just wake up and that is something we need to keep driving into people's heads. Right. That's something we are not doing that we need to do.
This is something, Maureen.
Yes. I think when you brought up that conversation, you almost were mentioning in undertones that they should be able to volunteer, accept whatever it is, be mentored. But I'm imagining if I left campus today, I have been living in the hostels, they have been paid by JAB. I need accommodation, I need food, I need transport, but I'm volunteering somewhere, and my village is in Webuye. How do I gain experience volunteering in this town? You must at least pay me something. 20,000, I pay rent, 10,000, 5,000 transport, 5,000 food.
No.
So the idea of volunteering is almost a mirage. It's impossible to tell a young person who just graduated, who has no other source of income, to volunteer and learn on the job. For me, at least.
And I know that this conversation, because I'm going to take your closing thoughts, and you can see the time. I know that this conversation, we must have it again. Yes. Because the thing I was going to bring up is there was a time that every tertiary college was being turned into a university. And somebody had to stop that, because then they realized there's a certain skill set that will be missing in the marketplace. We cannot all be producing executives. You're going to need technical people, you're going to need people in production and all of that. So why I say that we need to have this conversation another time is just to shape people's mindset that we don't all have to be CEOs. And in gaining this experience, I may have a BA in probably management, but I can actually go and start somewhere in a factory so that they don't see it as something that demeans them. I think if we shift that from the conversation we used to have before, go to primary school, get a good secondary school, good university, then you get a good job.
Yes.
Then if we shifted from there, then people would easily accept. So then you won't battle with the thing that you're battling with, which might just be a cultural barrier.
True.
Like, how did she leave University of Nairobi to come over here and then start working in this place? You know, I was recently going past a certain place. One of my college mates runs he calls it what parlor something. Since he has not paid, I'm not promoting it here. But he runs a restaurant in a certain place. So somebody was criticizing that, and I said, but you see, he's doing something with his hands. And I told them, some of these mama mbogas today, you see, some of them have got degrees. You cannot assume that they are not educated. These are people who just had to become very practical about what life presents to them. So I think the next conversation that we will have is how to switch mindsets to the place, you know, the way they say that your hustle is your hustle and you shouldn't be ashamed about it because you still have to pay your bills, you know. We will have that. But I want to take our closing thoughts right now, and I'll start with you, Maureen. Just for today's topic, I want what you would advise young people at this stage.
I would like to mention that what you have said is indeed true, that there's need to be a cultural shift in terms of mindset. We need to be able to use our hands. What can I produce with my hands? What are the things that I can do to earn income? So with the pandemic, for example, there's a lot of dynamics in the marketplace that has happened, and people have lost jobs.
Right.
And we have seen that they have had to find ways of making money.
Right.
Multiply whichever money you have. If you have a shilling and you can buy something and sell it for 2 shillings, you have made money. Right. So work hard in whichever space you have, gain a few skills, and also be resilient in being able to learn.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Arnold.
Well, my closing remarks will be in form of a story. And
did you say you did motivational speaking at some point?
yeah.
Are you the guys who tell us that you started with a feather?
Well, that is how I earned my first pocket money back then. So yeah, it's an area that actually pays well if you know how to circumvent the same. So basically, my story is about an Austrian. He was an Austrian banker.
Right.
So basically, he had done banking for around 7 years, and usually what used to happen was that in the evening, just like young Kenyan men, they would meet up at a bar where they would have conversations and then have 1 or 2 and then head home, as was the norm. So there's this particular day when they went to this particular restaurant or rather bar where they were in, and then when he was going to order for his drink, he met some guy who was ragged and didn't seem smart and all that. So while he was there, this particular guy just started having a conversation with him, and the conversation was about music. So apparently they had this conversation late into the night, and the fellow bankers were like, okay, why is he having a conversation with this particular guy? And later on, when this lad was leaving the bar heading home, he sat back and he thought to himself that all through I have been having conversations with my friends, but I've never been as happy as I am today. And this is based on conversations I was having in relation to rock music. And it hit him that as a child, his dream was to become a musician. There and then he quit his job as a banker and ventured into music. And throughout that particular period in time, he loved what he was doing. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that there's no definite time as to success. And the societal connotation as to specific career paths is not supposed to define who you are as a person. The reason as to why young people leave their jobs is because they're doing things that they don't enjoy doing. And that is where the niche and your purpose in life comes through. You understanding and doing what you actually love, not what you've been pushed towards doing in relation to what the society views you as. So it is you to determine what exactly you want to do and do it to your level best. As long as it gives you conviction and happiness, that is your niche.
All right, that's a whole other story altogether, I can tell you. Because I know also that following passion is not as easy, because eventually you'll be doing art, you'll be doing music, you'll be doing something, and then now the reality hits you.
Yeah.
You need to pay rent.
Precisely.
Ruth, your closing remarks.
Well, I'm not going to encourage bankers to please and join me. That's on a light note. But
They can bank in the morning
they,
and do music in the evening.
but what I would want to tell young people is do not think that you will leave school today and tomorrow you will get your dream job. It's not going to happen.
Right.
If anybody ever told you that, call that person and tell them they are a liar. You probably need to, it's like we've said, you're not going to also know your passion immediately. Some of you who know your passion, you have fears that are holding you back. Go and pursue it. But for some of you who do not know, it doesn't hurt to try out a few things until you finally get to what you love doing and what you're good at. Because sometimes you can be good at something and you don't love doing it. But sometimes you can love doing something and you're terrible at doing it. So you also need to find a balance between the two.
All right. Well, that has been the time that we had for this conversation today on CJ Scott. We're talking about how the young people can cut a niche for themselves in life. Of course, this is a very broad conversation. We have not even gone right into it, so we will come back with this conversation another time, God willing. But this is what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to follow them on their social media platforms. You know, that's Ruth Bolo, Ruth_Bolo everywhere.
Yes.
For Arnold.
Otieno Arnold everywhere.
Otieno Arnold everywhere, and
At Maureen Wanyonyi.
at Maureen Wanyonyi everywhere. Well, follow them and follow me as well as CJ Atemo on every social media platform. Remember to subscribe. Leave your comments on the comment section right now, because I will get time and come back to those comments, and I will ask them as well to just come in and check out your comment, and where you need somebody to probably clarify on something that wasn't very clear, they will do that for you. Till the next time, this is CJ Atemo, and it has been CJ Scott, right from Articulate Media Studios. We'll see you.